so much for talking to us today.
Pleasure.
I would imagine that being in so much prosthetics as you were in this film can be quite challenging. Can you talk about the flip side of that and if there are positives to that as well?
Yeah, I mean, it was daunting from the get-go because, I mean, other than the process is pretty tedious, obviously, but I thought it was going to give me a certain freedom in either hiding behind a mask or looking so differently and being this whole other, being. And then I actually found it somewhat restrictive because, there's a lot of upkeep with prosthetics like that. I mean, one take and all of a sudden, your mouth is becoming undone and your contact lenses are scratchy and your wig's coming off, and there's so much stuff. So at all times I felt like I couldn't move because I had this people, walking behind me and trying to glue me back together. So that part felt restrictive to me when I would have thought with all this makeup and all this kind of stuff I would be a completely different character, which to a certain extent I am. But also, how far do you take it? Like, if the makeup is doing all the scariness for you already, then what do you do as an actor? I mean, you don't have your eyes, then how do you express yourself? And so the voice became one tool, and so it was just different, challenging.
When reading the script, what particular parts of Muriel's character did you see that you were excited to sort of explore on screen?
It ultimately actually became, I don't know that initially when I read the script, I thought that then it was more of a general thing, like, okay, I haven't done this before, this should be interesting, really transforming myself physically into another person. There's got to be something to be found and explored in that. I want to do that kind of thing. Then when we finally were shooting, my favorite part was actually there's a crowd scene with a lot of witches and addressing that, where I really felt like that's probably Muriel at her best and what she liked to do in the way that a rock star likes to be in front of an audience. Like she, gets a kick out of being the leader of this big clan of witches kind of thing. So that's, I think, a little bit where I feel that, that made it worth my while. The fight sequences were difficult just because I was so impaired.
So you've since added writing and directing to your resume.
I have.
How has that changed the way you approach acting work?
There are really good and bad sides about that, because as an actor, it's a very different role you embody in the whole production than obviously as a writer, director, producer, whatever. And, the whole concept, the notion of time and how much money that cost, and especially because, bringing up Bobby, the film I directed, shot in 20 days. And, the moment you're waiting on an actor and they're stuck in hair and makeup or, any of those types of things, you couldn't stand to lose a whole scene and have to cut it out of the movie. So bringing that to making a movie, and especially now Hansel and Gretel was the first thing I went back to, it added a lot of anxiety to being in, like, oh my God, they're still gluing and I know they're waiting for me on set and all that kind of stuff. And so in that respect, it didn't really help. But I think it's something that all actors should really be aware of, because it is something that, time is money, and it is something you want to help the whole creative process along in however way you can. And most of us do anyway. It is a very collaborative effort. But they're very different animals, and I have to say I love going back and forth between the two. I'd like to do more writing and directing. It just suits my personality a lot better that I can be in charge and in control, and I don't have to sit and wait by the phone to see if somebody wants to, hire me for something. I can create from scratch. I love being at home in my apartment in New York and writing and creating and constantly being proactive rather than waiting for somebody else to come up with the goods and then adding my version of that and my interpretation of that.
And how, I always find it fascinating when actors get behind the camera.
Yeah.
It shows, it kind of teaches us something different about that person. What did you learn about yourself in that process that maybe acting couldn't teach you?
Well, ironically, I think that the one aspect of my job as a director that I didn't spend any time thinking about, because I thought I would be so good at it was dealing with actors, because you just, I mean, I've been an actor for 20 years or whatever, so I didn't even think that I had to focus on that. And then dealing with actors was actually, ironically, one of the more complicated parts of it, because I'm still, I thought as an actor, so I didn't want to say to an actor, like, you know, that's maybe a good idea, or but actually this is not how I saw it at all. And I just didn't sometimes have the, you know, you have to be strong in a way that I have to learn how to be, and not think as an actor, but really as a director, like in the grand scheme of things, in this entire story, this is the type of part that I want you to play, so this is how this particular scene fits into the whole thing. And so, you know, really thinking as a director rather than as an actor is something that I just have to work on a little bit, I think, for the future.
Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.